Was geht, meine Freunde? Willkommen zu einer neuen Folge von The House und Fata Morgana, Requiem for Innocence. Wir spielen heute das zweite der Short Stories, oder wie auch immer die heißen, Sub-Stories, glaube ich, irgendwie so ähnlich.
Ich glaube, es gibt Sub-Episodes und
Ja, Super Episodes, Super Episodes. Ja, anyways, Freunde, letztes Mal haben wir Ascent to Daily gespielt. Sehr geil, Digga, mit diesem wurde einfach mal zwei Lieblingscharakter eingeführt.
Ja, weißt du da nicht? Noemi.
Noemi und Peon oder so.
Imian halt
Imian.
umgekehrt.
Ja, Freunde. Anyways, wir spielen heute dann Tales Wasted Away in Obscurity und kommt drauf an, wie lange das ist, aber vielleicht dann in einem Let's Play auch noch Happily Ever After und wenn nicht, dann vielleicht zwei verschiedene, werdet ihr jetzt sehen schon, Freunde.
Ich habe keine Ahnung, was
Ja.
Tales Wasted Away in Obscurity ist, aber Happy Ever After ist nach Ending 8. So, das Slice of Life Stuff irgendwie.
Ja, anyways, Freunde, was schon bei der Jugend? Wir gehen direkt rein.
Let's go.
Jugend. Mal gucken, wie du sowas lesen musst, ne? Also was in der Mitte ist. The vast majority of happenings in this world are not recorded in stories, either too trifling or having no meaning to our lives. These facts are quite hilarious as of our taste of worth. Ich hätte jetzt ganz and we continue to the very moment of our death. It's only as inevitable as death itself. The tales afforded not the moment in the light left to waste away in obscurity. Also die nicht so wichtig sind für das Hauptlicht, die wir jetzt erzählt bekommen, I guess. Erstens, a slow killing person, a poison, zweitens, the defectives und drittens, the paintings ramblings.
Ah, ich verstehe, was es ist.
Achso, man kann auswählen.
Ja, ich verstehe, was es ist. Das sind so, wie es gerade gesagt wurde, so Tales, die nicht in dem Hauptlicht waren. Deswegen sind es so, ich glaube, das sind die Sub-Episodes, ne? Also ich glaube, die sind ungefähr zusammen so eine halbe Stunde, die sind nicht so lang.
Ich würde sagen, lass aber 1, 2, 3, oder?
Ja, okay.
Also am meisten Bock habe ich auf jeden Fall auf Paintings Ramblings, weil das ist, ich glaube, das ist einfach, wie George es vor sich selber hinlabert, weil er halt allein ist.
Let's go.
Let's go. A slow killing poison.
Das sind wie sozusagen so Filler-Folgen.
Ja, aber Filler-Folgen können auch gut sein.
Das sind so kleine OVAs sozusagen. Ja, wie OVAs.
So diese Text, ne?
Achso, denkst du, es ist nur so wie bei Morganas Backstory?
Anyways, lass mal kurz abschwören. So. Wer liest das überhaupt? Anyways. The maid spoke little of what happened after the white-haired girl's disappearance in the era of roses. But she believed the rest
Das ist Door 1, oder?
of the tale insignificant, of no value to share with her listener, the white-haired girl herself. Also das slow-killing poison ist dann, I guess, wie jetzt hier sie danach noch lebt und stirbt oder so. Mal schauen. Thus, her role as storyteller ended with the girl's departure from the stage, and while the other characters' stories continued on, they were cut from the script, afforded not their moment in the limelight, left to waste away in obscurity. First, a slow-killing poison. Arthur Baldwin was waxed. Dieser Dude, zu dem Nelly war engaged. Shortly before they were to be married, his engagement with Nelly Rhodes, eldest daughter of the Rhodes family, had been broken off. He understood well enough why it had happened, and had it been his decision, he likely would have made the same one. So Arthur's dissatisfaction lay not with the dissolution itself, nor did he bear any fault in it. His bride-to-be had simply been gripped by madness. I hear she attacked an Abigail. Oh, I was told she took one of her eyes out, even while she killed her. Those are but rumors, my dears. The truth is much more dreadful. Also, I guess das ist hier Morgana, die erzählt, weil sie so my dears sagt. Okay. I used to work at the Rhodes Manor, you see. The young lady, Initially, Arthur was skeptical of what people were saying. He assumed the tales were being exaggerated as they spread. But when the head of the Rhodes family came personally to deliver reparations, formally nullified the engagement, he gave Arthur a rough overview of what had happened. It was apparently true that Nellie had assaulted an Abigail, and it was true that she spent most of her time in her room now, looking pale and sickly and drained of her spirits. And then when he said outright, a demon possessed her, Arthur had little choice but to believe something wasn't right. And to top it all off, Nelly's older brother ran off to become a priest, presumably to get away from everything. Nelly's father implored Arthur to remain discreet about her situation, not that he had any intention of going around and spreading personal details about her life. However, rumors have a nasty way of slipping through the tiniest of cracks, sneaking about through the dark like a seasoned cat burglar. What nobles like to refer to as social gatherings were in practice more like gossip gatherings. And in short order, the Rhodes family's eldest daughter was the talk of high society. Incidentally, the painter, whose downfall eventually culminated into this tragedy, was also strangled by the noble grapevine, though Arthur had no way of knowing as much. Perhaps the painter's curse extended beyond the girl's hair color. And the Rhodes family was destined to be brought to ruin by the gossip of their fellow aristocrats. One evening, Arthur decided he would sneak into the Rhodes manor. He had requested visitations with Nelly on numerous occasions, had been turned away every time. "She's in no condition for company," was what they kept telling him, which left him no choice but to see her uninvited. Ich muss kurz im Wassergockel ran. Yeah, the aroma of the roses seemed more overpowering at night than during the day, and he wasn't sure whether it was just his imagination. The nagging irritation it caused in him was, however, not only in his mind. Arthur instructed his coachman to wait on a street a little ways out and made the rest of the way to the manor on foot. A foot assassin. Entering through the garden. As he waded through the seas of roses, he clenched his teeth. Arthur preferred restraint when it came to both gardening and girls. What am I doing with my life? How did I end up here, sneaking about trying to find that obnoxious little girl's room? Arthur had few pleasant memories of this rose garden. Rhodes and Baldwins. Ich dachte, die jetzt war Baldwins. Had a long history, so as a child he would often find himself left here to play while the adults did business. It was him, Nelly, who could never seem to stop hanging off her brother, and Mel, the textbook definition of a well-behaved aristocrat boy. Not once had he managed to step into the siblings' private world. There was only room for the two of them, leaving Arthur stuck out there all by himself. The best he could manage was a little teasing now and then. For example, saying her hair looked like the color of fallen leaves. I never asked for this engagement anyway. Who would even want to marry a girl who thinks herself some kind of princess? Not me, that's for sure. But still, he had known her practically his whole life. Of course he was going to be curious when people were saying she had gone mad and been possessed by a demon. He was just curious, he told himself as he drew nearer to Nelly's window. The curtains appeared to be drawn. He couldn't see anything inside, so he crouched down to pick up a few pebbles to toss over the veranda. A few soft taps rang out in the night before the curtain finally shifted. A few moments later, a young girl stumbled out into the moonlight. Despite already knowing the answer, his first thought was, "Who is that?" He wanted to smack himself, but at the same time it was hard to deny the discrepancies between the girl standing there and the girl of his memories. The moonlight seemed to give her flaxen hair a ghostly bluish tint. It fluttered in a passing breeze, and Arthur felt something about her he never had before. She's so pretty. Whoa, slow down, what's wrong with you? Pretty? That self-centered spoiled little brat? Wasn't a trace of the rambunctious Nelly he knew to be found. She stood there by the veranda railing, gazing vaguely off into space like a pensive spirit. It wasn't at all what Arthur had expected to see when he came calling. He assumed she would be nothing but skin and bones, haggard and unsightly. Now, Lady Nelly, do you not think it rude to not at least greet me? We were engaged, as you might recall. Her eyes still unfocused, Nelly turned her gaze down toward where Arthur stood. It was a reaction, but still he felt as though she had snubbed him, which did little to alleviate the irritation building up since he had arrived. Look! It's like a scene right out of your beloved Romeo and Juliet. Not that I'm here enthusiastically, of course. Mumbling complaints to himself, Arthur climbed a nearby tree. Er macht hier den Lissop. Wirklich. Leaping from a branch onto the veranda. And there she was, within arm's reach. But as distant as ever. Apropos One Piece, ich habe echt Bock auf die Live-Action. Weil, ja, Bock.
Ja, leider ist so Staffel 2 wird nicht Alabaster haben. Deswegen.
Ja. Ich habe trotzdem Bock, so nochmal die deutschen Stimmen zu hören. So.
Ich habe ein bisschen so. Es gibt so Leute, die haten komplett die Live-Action, aber ich finde alleine, dass. Ich meine, selbst wenn man sie gar nicht feiert, ist es wie Oda gesagt hat, dass es sozusagen die letzte Chance ist, dass so One Piece for real so.
Ja, nicht die letzte, jetzt noch Remake.
Stimmt schon, aber so, dass es so wirklich so die. Ja, aber das stimmt, Remake könnte.
Ja, das sind Normies, das heißt.
Ja, das kommt.
Ja, Leute, die halt so nichts mehr mit am Hut haben.
Wir müssen dann noch zu. Ja, und ich bin auch, weiß nicht, wie ich den Job reinkriegen, aber wahrscheinlich.
The funny CGs sind geil. Still, he could see nothing in her eyes. Hello? Say something already, would you, Nelly? Perhaps she really had lost her mind, just not in the way he had been led to believe. Arthur spent a few moments pondering how to proceed. He didn't consider himself a model gentleman like Mel, not even slightly, but he wasn't so crass as to laugh it off either. You certainly are quiet tonight, aren't you? I'm not sure how I'm supposed to act when you're like a completely different person. Every time you open your mouth, I want to sew it shut. You're always complaining, nothing is ever good enough for you. Nothing is ever good enough. But right now, I just want you to say something. Anything. Oh, I'm supposed to know what's going through your head. You don't tell me. There's just nothing at all. And his gaze glided past Arthur and to the rose garden behind them. Nelly, are you listening to me? He tried again and again to get her attention, calling her name, waving his hand in front of her face, gently tugging on her hair. But all his attempts were fruitless. She simply stood there lifeless, a well-crafted doll. He wasn't sure exactly how to describe how he felt. Slightly unsettled to start, a bit of pity to go with it, and a great deal of something yanking at his insides. After I had few pleasant memories with the roads. That didn't mean he wanted to erase his past with them entirely. No. But looking at her, this empty shell, he felt almost as though those days were disappearing with her. How irritating. He knew the word wasn't right, but he went with it anyway, having a sigh after letting her linger in the air for a moment. It's always been like this. I'm no more than a buzzing insect to you. I can't stand this dreadful rose garden. It was exhausting having to come here again and again just because our family is so close. I would try to say something, and you'd go running off into your darling brother's arms. Do you smell this? Do you smell that? Is that all you know how to say? And he would just give you a half-hearted smile and pretend to be sorry for not paying attention to you. Arthur looked out over the garden as well. He was more talking to himself than he was to Nelly. I'm sure you don't remember, but one time I even brought you flowers. What were they? Some kind of anemone, I think? But you wouldn't take them. You said the roses here were prettier. So you didn't need my flowers. What a miserable day that was. But standing beside the silent spectre, melancholy overwhelmed any anger or frustration he might have otherwise felt. Perhaps it was because nothing he said managed to elicit any reaction out of her, or perhaps because he wished he had come out and said this out sooner. Unless expressed feelings merely fester. I don't care one bit about you, and I mean that. It's only ever been about doing what's best for my family.
You.
But family. I do remember that. Of course, Nelly was a perfect example of why you couldn't let everything out either. The gossip spoke not only of her attacking on Abigail, but of her destroying her relationship with her brother. And that was likely what had done the most damage. Knowing what he knew of Nelly in her younger days, Arthur had little trouble believing what the rumors tell, as said. That her affection for Mel went far beyond simple familiar love. It was from a family, but it doesn't mean I wasn't going to try to get along with you. You probably don't believe me since I certainly never acted like it, but I generally did want us to be on good terms. It just, you had to be the one who changed first. You were always treating me like I was worthless, like I meant nothing to you. Not like any of that would have even left an impression in your one-track mind, of course. But that's why I wanted you to take the first step. I'm not some wise old monk who can just turn my frustration off on command. Arthur let out another sigh. Do you think anything would have gone differently if I would have been more grown up? A gust of wind blew through, sending up a flurry of rose petals, carrying them up past the two of them and through the velvet curtains into Nelly's bedchamber. A faint smile crossed her lips. Arthur could only guess at what was going through her mind, what was reflected in her eyes. In the room he could see several pairs of small children's shoes. A doll with its hair all neatly made up, a pile of sheet music drawn up for her by a respected composer years earlier, a toys carved from wood. It was like he was looking through a window into the past. So, kurzer Deploy moment. That was all he needed to know. Yeah. He could have treated her like the princess she thought she was, and she would have gone down the same path. Lily's eyes man. First only. Arthur wasn't even a shadow on him. Bad period. Can you to lachen? Purr. You better stay smelling for you in the interview. But that was all she needed. After that night, Arthur stayed away from the roads and never mentioned the siblings again. It was the best thing to do, he thought. He had his own life to worry about. But fate wouldn't allow him to avoid hearing about the family from time to time. About 4 years later, Nelly, who had apparently fallen ill, passed away at the young age of 18. Oh. Rip.
Oh.
The Rhodes held a small funeral service which Mel did not attend. Oof. Arthur couldn't even begin to imagine what he, her brother, felt about. Vielleicht hat das gar nicht mitbekommen. But another 3 years later, Mel followed behind her.
Oh.
At the age of 24. Stand das deswegen in so Ende von Fata Morgana? Weil ich weiß gerade nicht mehr, ob das da stand.
Ja, das stand da. Ich glaube.
Ja, da stand, glaube ich, 18 und 4 so.
Ja, und dann haben wir so gesagt, so, ja, okay, sind ja natürlich gestorben, wir haben nie gesehen, genau wie.
He threw himself off the top of a church shower. Ja, moin. According to those near him, he had been acting unusual in the months leading up to his death, claiming he could hear a woman's voice talking to him. Yo. Morgana hat ihm so gesagt, curse alles. Weil jemand, der keine Hoffnung hat, der hört sie, so hat sie ist ja zu Noemi gesagt.
Ich glaube, nimmt sie wahr, hat sie damit gemeint.
Ja. If he had taken his life out of grief, 3 years seemed like too long of a gap.
Genau.
Jemand hat sie getötet. Ihn getötet. Perhaps it had built up over time and that was how long it took to reach the boiling point. But that's not how it felt to Arthur, yeah? Was it sound to be? It felt like Belle had been guided there by a higher power. Or maybe pushed. And there was one other strange detail. He had died at exactly the strike of noon. Yo! Wie bei Morgana. Bei noon. Bei der 12. Glocke. Ding.
Da ist Morgana.
Schon. And at the 12th time, she died.
Ja, du bist besser mit Details, habe ich vergessen.
Yeah, as the bell rang, it's 12 toll. Genau so. Hallo?
Interesting.
Achso, ich habe gedrückt, das hat sie nicht gemacht.
War das schon?
Was?
War es schon?
Ich glaube schon, probably.
Dann haben wir erfahren, was mit.
Ja.
Dann haben wir
Das ist
erfahren,
okay,
was.
voll.
Okay. Haben wir jetzt erfahren, was mit Nelly und Mel passiert ist.
Ja, Freunde. Cool. Pretty cool.
Und ich hatte sozusagen, man versteht auch, dass so. Sagen das alle mal.
Wahrscheinlich.
Weißt du, warum sozusagen es nicht im Leid war, weißt du? Weil das war nicht so wichtig.
Ja. Ich würde sagen, das war ziemlich interesting, so Slowking Poisonous hat auch Sinn ergeben, warum das da so bei den Credits bei Fata Morgana Ende stand. Also beim normalen. Anyways, Freunde, ich würde sagen, wir gehen in die zweite Reihe Defectives. Let's go.
Also ich sage, es ist Store 3 Stuff jetzt. In the distant Hoei air, while the Tokugawa shogunate governed feudal Japan, Yukimasa, I guess doch Yukimasa,
Hier anzutippen. Nicht rechts, nur
Yukimasa Aida made his living far to the west,
wir müssen ihn empfunden haben.
with little knowledge of what lay beyond the borders of his own native country. Land of the Rising Sun was an isolated nation, dwelling nearly everyone away, save for traders from very specific regions. And those restrictions applied equally to Japanese who had departed the country before they were put in place.
Kannst auch das nehmen, das nehmen wir aus.
Yeah. Kimasa was a third-generation immigrant, having never once set foot in his homeland. And for that reason, as a child, he held a great adoration for the glorious nation described by his grandfather. And he was particularly fond of the katana passed down to him by his grandfather. Though it bore no name, the blade had curiously bestial glimmered and entranced Yukimasa at first sight. The katana had belonged to Yukimasa's grandmother, but she had passed away before he was born. His grandfather described her as a skilled swordswoman, slightly in frame, but easily able to take down several men more than twice her size. After his grandfather passed and bequeathed onto him the blade, Yukimasa would from time to time see phantoms of a young woman drenched in blood. She had sharp, narrow eyes like him that looked more like his than even his parents. He felt almost as though his own reflection had stepped out of the mirror to cut him down. Or like they were a pair of killers standing shoulder to shoulder. With each recurrence of the illusion, it took root even deeper into his soul. And Yukimasa grew ever more certain that one day he would cross over into her world. That he was simply holding in his true nature. That the beast dwelling within would break loose eventually. Also spielt es hier so vor den Events of Tor 2. This tale, however, is of a time when he was nothing. Ich kann auch einfach eins weiterlesen. When he was still more man than beast. Episode 2. Defectives. In the wake of framing and killing 2 crewmates for smuggling Spanish survivors, scarce.
What do you mean? Was für Framing?
Scarce war crazy. Also, das war jemand anderes.
Nicht Yukimasa.
Yukimasa was having something of an identity crisis. On both occasions, he had been smiling during the act, at least according to those who had seen him. If what they said were true, he wasn't conscious of it, but he didn't particularly doubt their words either. It was, in all likelihood, true. He had killed 2 men and enjoyed doing it.
I liked it.
What unsettled Yukimasa most was that his initial reaction was, I wonder what I'm going to become. Not a moment's concern for the man whose lives he had stolen. Once their still warm bodies hit the water, that was that. He had no nostalgia for the months they had spent out at sea together. He didn't care what kind of men they had been, or how much the families might grieve over the loss. Yukimasa wondered if that made him narcissistic. The lack of interest in anyone but himself seemed to fit the bill, but he didn't actually feel like he held himself in very high stature. He simply had this vague awareness of himself as a twisted, unsightly creature. On that day, the ship stopped at a small port town to replenish supplies and give the crew a few days to stretch their legs. They were still about 2 months out from Amsterdam, where his beloved awaited his return.
Amsterdam.
What a hellish trip that was. A crewman of Western origin naturally muttered, If I never have to hear the word smuggle again, it'll be too damn soon.
Was?
Wäre das nicht so, if I ever have to hear it again?
Again, it'll be too damn soon.
Also, if I ever have to hear it again, it'll be too damn soon. Nicht,
I don't know, man.
nicht.
Auch nicht.
Kann ich jetzt so dumm?
in Deutsch.
Fata Morgana hier. Yeah, okay. And the way the whole crew got their cheeks clenched after that's about driven me mad. Not blaming you, I mean, just how it is. You?
How long it was? You.
Yukimasa shook his head and gave the man a faint smile. And in his mind, he chuckled about how no one could seem to see through his mask. The blame lay with him for much more than just the tension on the ship. Real shit job he got stuck with there. I don't know if would have been able to do it and keep a straight face like you did. But you're aching to let off some steam, ain't you? Can be straight with me.
Ja, deswegen hat er die Leute ein bisschen geschult. Die Freundschaft.
I would certainly stand for some relief, yes. That much was true. However, Yukimasa meant it in a very different way. Come with me tonight then. I know the perfect place to get you just what you need. The tanned seaman smirked, which was all Yukimasa needed to know what he was insinuating. He hesitated to come up with a response.
Geh zu einem Buchenhaus.
Worried about Captain Asama? Don't. I ain't gonna tell him. Besides, it's not like he doesn't have needs too, you get me? Some of the crew knew that Yukimasa was romantically involved with the captain's daughter, and the man standing before him seemed to assume his hesitations stemmed from that. But the Captain Asama would, as the seafarer had said, spend his time off satisfying his personal needs. Ich muss irgendwie so rein dran denken, mit dem Boot in Hand, habe ich es angefangen hat, ne? Das war die erste Prüfung sozusagen, in Anführungszeichen, wo so die Post gefiltert wurden, die den Sturm nicht überstehen.
Ja, die haben zu Lapis hat.
Ich finde, ich weiß nicht wieso, ich sehe das irgendwie nicht so in der Discussion, aber ich finde, dass der Hunter-Exam-Arc einer der besten ersten Arcs überhaupt ist. Also wahrscheinlich der beste ist wahrscheinlich Promised Neverland so.
Ja, das ist auch einer meiner Lieblingsarcs ever einfach.
Aber ich finde Hunter-Arc so, von so Big Shonen, das ist so der beste Beginn, finde ich.
Probably. Ja, aber für mich sehe ich auch nie so für mich wird Hunter, also kaum, nie so One Piece Naruto für mich erreichen. Ich habe ja beide Nostalgie, bei Hunter nicht.
Ja.
Und, ja, kaum.
Ja, die Sache bei Naruto, sagst du?
Nee, ja, kaum. Das hat auch kein Ende. So.
Ja,
So.
das will ich gerade sagen. Die Sache bei Hunter.
Fertig.
Die Sache bei One Piece, nach Hunter ist, wenn es gehen würde, consistent, und auch mit Anime, so wie der Anime ist ja voll gut gemacht auch, aber einfach wenn der Manga consistent gehen würde, und sagen wir mal, dann wäre es jetzt schon 600 Kapitel, 700 oder so, dann wäre es echt, könnte es echt so One Piece Level sein, aber ist halt nicht so. Ist halt
Der Kontinent könnte so interessant.
ja, aber schon. That was just part of life on the sea. Everyone understood it and no one considered it being unfaithful. Requiring a ship full of vigorous young men to save themselves for their partners, who they would often not see for months at a time, could in fact be considered a form of torture. There were a number of brothels scattered about the port town.
Obscurity.
For them, sailors were particularly the ideal clients. A ship only stayed around for a few days to a week, meaning no time to get attached or cause other similar problems. But the only complaint a prostitute might have is that sailors tended to be quite pent up. They weren't a kind of clientele a new recruit could generally handle. That settles it. Tonight, grab something to eat and then grab something to eat and then we'll meet up at. Yukimasa forced a smile for the man, by taking his silence a yes. But he wasn't worried about Captain Asama finding out on or being unfaithful to Pauline. He simply wasn't sure how much he could trust the seaman's recommendation. And the last thing he wanted was to catch some kind of disease. Yukimasa was paired up with a skeletal girl with faded brown hair, which she had done so much it only served to emphasize the lack of anything anywhere else on her body. This is your idea of the perfect place? Couldn't deny his disappointment at his assignment, who boasted about nothing of what he sought in a woman. In fact, he was afraid he might snap her in half. As the other pair seated up beyond the thin curtains, Yukimasa's interest plummeted. If a woman tried to seduce him, he would act in accordance with his base instincts, but otherwise, Yukimasa didn't have a particularly strong libido, so... You're not into this at all, are you? No, it's fine. You're not going to hurt my feelings if you want to trade me for another girl. I used to have a few regulars, but these days I've got nothing. Sooner or later they're going to toss me out on my arse, and I'll have to resort to back alley quickies to make a living. You're the customer. You've got every right to complain to the manager about drawing the short straw. She sounded like a woman hanging from her last thread. I'm not going to cause any trouble for you. Well, aren't you sweet? Your loss, she said with a snicker. Du bist nicht du, wenn du nicht bist. Oh! It's a snicker. I object to being called sweet, but anyway, I stand out more than most, so if I make a scene, it's most likely to escalate. You even went out of the way to explain yourself. So, I object to your objection. Objection! Ich hätte auch so Bock auf Ace Attorney, aber du meinst ja das mit diesen Rätseln und so, nicht so, ne? Ist so, oder? Ace Attorney? Dann vielleicht spielst du selber. Es gibt's auch auf App Store, glaube ich. You even went out of the way to explain. Okay. But you do have a point. You're from the Far East, aren't you? Don't see many of your kind around these parts, so it's no surprise you draw attention. You know what? I've changed my mind. Don't ask for another bit. Plans like you only come around once in a blue moon.
Muss ich mal nachschauen, wann ein Blue Moon immer ist.
Das ist so eine Redewendung. 100% ist eine Redewendung. Das ist so alle paar
Jahrhunderte.
Nein, once in a blue moon ist so selten halt.
Ja,
Oder nicht
aber
selten,
wie
aber so alle
selten.
paar Mal. So, das ist dann nicht so.
Ja, vielleicht gibt's sowas.
Nein, du kannst jetzt sofort googeln. Es ist einfach nur Redewendung.
Okay.
Es ist kein spezielles Datum wie so 12 Tage oder so. 100%. Zum Beispiel, weißt du, wie lang ein Fortnite ist? Das ist so das Wort. Kennst du das?
2 Wochen.
Genau, so a fortnight ago, das sind 2 Wochen.
Also once.
Alle
Ups.
Jubeljahre.
Das sind Jubeljahre, do Hund.
Das andere jetzt auch so in den Ton, ne?
Aha, du und ich haben wir tatsächlich. Dann sind wir wieder in Deutschland ist alle Jubeljahre eine Redewendung, die sehr selten oder fast nie mit dem Ursprung im Begriff Jubeljahrs alle 50 Jahre. Gefickt hab ich dich. Hä?
Nein.
Doch?
Das ist nicht der englische Aufsatz, aber der englische Ausdruck.
Also, once in a blue night,
Blue Moon.
Blue, was ich mal Blue Night hier. Blue Moon meint man alle 50 Jahre.
Wetten sagt nein.
Nicht
Ja.
ganz.
Schau.
Also alle 2,5
Ja.
bis 3 Jahre. Aber da gibt es doch eine zeitliche Einheit, nicht eine Superzeit.
Warte mal, das bezieht sich auf den zweiten Vormonat einen Monat. Das passiert ungefähr alle 2,5 bis 3 Jahre.
Jo.
Okay, schau. Sind nicht wörtlich zu nehmen, sondern drücken einfach aus, super selten. Schau. Bin gespannt. Na, mein Gott, Sturkopf. Wenn du mich recht haben willst. Schau, es sagt nein und es bedeutet nicht wörtlich.
Sag ich aber recht auf.
Schau, es gibt nicht zu. Es gibt nicht zu. Schau. Schau, es
Nein.
gibt nicht zu.
Ah, Digga. Ja, aber doch Deutsch. Digga.
Dann wird es aber nicht. Ah. Ja, also hier. Warte. Times like you only come around once every 50 years. So I'd rather not let you go. Let's both avoid making a fuss and stay here together. You make it sound like I'm some kind of exotic animal. Cool, you're cute when you scold. We can't find out if you're an animal later, but you certainly are exotic.
So, Digga. Los.
You're not even going to pretend this is a business exchange anymore, are you? I mean, why bother? I'm just a leftover scrap that nobody wanted. There was something oddly charming about her gleeful laugh, combined with the stream of self-deprecation, which would have been less of an issue for Yukimasa had he become physically intimate with Lenient, because by comparison, the prostitute would look like nothing more than a couple dried twigs tied together. But he wouldn't be able to see Pauline for another couple months. And he was beginning to think this girl might just do the trick for now. Damn, hat er Pauline betrogen hier. The ship was scheduled to stay in port for about a week. Although they would have to spend some time moving cargo on and off the boat, the stay was by and large a recreational one. It was early afternoon, and while much of the crew had gathered together to go drinking, Yukimasa was taking a relaxed walk along the shore. He was no less interested in exploring the unfamiliar port town as anyone else, but unlike them, he wasn't the kind of man whose first instinct was to go straight to the pub. They all jabbed at him for being stiff and tight-ass. Ja, Digga, die Lappen, da geht er den Pub betrinken. Dumm das, Alter. None of the wise to the primal urges he kept buried within.
Es ist viel nicer so am Strand, so mit der geilen frischen Luft.
Ja?
Ja, was will man da? Irgendwelche Huren, Digga.
Das war so nice in
Lost.
dort 2, diese Szene am Strand.
Ja. Auf dem Boot. Auch.
Aber halt am Strand da mit Pauline so. And who would ever suspect it either? Who could watch him walk up to an elderly man fishing on the dock, ask, "How's the catch?" with a smile, and imagine a bloodthirsty beast who lurked within. The man gave a lazy nod in return, adding, "Ain't half bad today." "You're a sailor, I wager, am I right?" the man said as Yukimasa made to resume his walk. "You are. Well, a warning for you then, outsider. You do best to stay away from any back alleys after dark. It ain't safe at night, no how." Yukimasa gave the man a half smile, feeling somewhat patronized by his warning. He was plenty capable of discerning where the dangerous part of town were, and he was confident in his ability to defend himself if someone tried to attack. There's always been several victims.
Already.
Oh, sorry, there's already been several victims. Yukimasa froze. As in murders. Killed better than dead. And they still ain't caught him neither. Wouldn't want any of our guests to end up next on the list.
Am Ende ist es so Yukimasa, der das so macht, wenn sie so Identity Crisis hat.
Das kann sein. Ich dachte mir auch so, wer ist hier so ein krasser Killer?
Ja, mal schauen.
Out of curiosity, how does he kill? The old man turned his gaze down, his face becoming a shadow against the clear blue ocean stretched out behind him. He dismembers them. Hard to imagine, eh? Cutting that person into a bunch of pieces. He don't discriminate neither, man, woman, child, don't matter none. He's a sicko, complete madman.
Das ist safe Yukimasa.
And they ain't found no pattern to the victims neither. Nothing to say who he might be or who he might choose next.
You're my next target. Like that.
So don't think you're safe just because you're not from around here. Yukimasa could feel his vision narrowing, converging on a single point. Oh, he could imagine. He could imagine clear as the afternoon sky. And oh, how he wished that could be. Well, look who it is. Fancy running into you here. A woman's voice dragged him back to reality. He felt like he had just been pulled up from the bottom of the ocean, and when he turned to face her, he must have still looked a bit dazed, judging from the way she raised her eyebrow at him.
Wir haben bei der vergessen, Dump Zero zu suchen in Real Life.
Was?
Dump Zero zu suchen in Real Life haben wir vergessen.
Was?
Hypo.
Stimmt. Oh, let me guess. You don't recognize me all made up from work? Not all made up from work. It's me, the girl from yesterday. She held her hair up in an approximately of her previous night's hairstyle, to which Yukimasa gave an in faint realization. So, what? Oh, apropos, ich muss gerade an das von Palpatine denken. Ich hab so Bock auf Episode 3 im Kino, oh mein Gott. So what you doing wandering out here? Bored? Got nothing better to do? He wondered if the woman was even capable of being less blunt, especially considering he had, technically, been her client the night before. Ja, oder technically, also hat er doch nicht Ding betrogen.
Ja.
Pauline. I'm just taking a walk. Not much to see out here. There's the ocean. Ja, eben nicht much to see. The ocean is one of the most beautiful things in the world. Okay. Don't you get enough of that when you're out on it? I'll never tire of the sight of the sea. Is that so? She said.
Jude.
Followed by a softer, sadly exasperated, I'll never understand, guys. But a few seconds later, she gave him a big smile. So hey, you're not busy. Why don't you come to my place? I can throw together a bare bones little lunch. Again, I'm taking a walk. And bare bones is hardly a convincing sales pitch. I'm saying if you want a quality meal, pony up for some goods. Ah, so that's what you meant. Pathetic, but finding no reason to turn her invitation down, Yukimasa agreed to go along. I've taken a liking to you, she had said. Stop by whenever you got the chance, at least until you have to take off. I could treat you even better than when I'm on the job, and free of charge. What do you have to lose? So that's exactly what Yukimasa did. Seeing her became part of his daily routine.
Oh, Digga.
And the more time they spent together, the more he learned about her. She had once been married and planning to have a start family. But money troubles led to debt spilling on, which led to her husband piling on, which led to her husband running out at her. And with the entirety of her debt on her shoulders, she had to start working, which was how she ended up at the brothel. As she told the story, Yukimasa showed a fair degree of sympathy, but took the whole thing with a grain of salt. If everything she had said was true, she'd had a hard life indeed, but there was no guarantee it was. Yukimasa made certain not to be openly dismissive or skeptical, though, to play the good listener.
Er macht nicht so wie... Also, ja, es ist so, wie du gerade erzählt, und wir nehmen es so als bare nehmen oder so. Dann am Ende so, oh mein Gott, der hat ihren Vater getötet oder so.
Bare Münze meinst du?
Ja, bare Münze. Das ist immer so bei Fata Morgana.
Ja.
Wenn irgendwas erzählt, ist es nicht wahr.
Ja. So,
Oder sehr oft.
so gut als Zuhörer, wenn man einfach so, sie erzählt so und er so,
Okay.
ah.
So, ja.
Das Meme von Patrick Bateman mit dem Goblin-Schauspieler, so, und so. Die ganze Zeit zunickt, weißt du?
Ja, ich glaube, ich weiß, was du meinst.
Yeah. There was one thing he could be certain of, though. He felt a tiny bit of solidarity in the woman's solitude. The sense she was missing something. The sense she had hunger. Ich habe auch ultra Hunger.
Ich hab auch Hunger, Alter.
The sense she had a hole that couldn't be filled. Ja, mein
Magen.
Mein Magen kann gefüllt werden. Scheiße, wie ist das so ein Zockerschauspieler?
Achso, ich hab so einen Hunger, ich könnte auch Wasser bändigen oder irgendwie so.
Ja, auch Tränenbending, aber es war auch. Wir haben den letzten Rewatch, aber ich meine so. Ach scheiße. Allein deswegen müssen wir nochmal watchen. Jetzt müsst du jede Line auswendig lernen. Müssen jedes Skript
ich muss
downloaden.
sagen, guck mal, jede Line auswendig lernen, das kriege ich nicht hin.
Nee, jetzt
Außer bei einer Serie.
Warte. Prosevalent?
Nee. In Toki spricht da ein Charakter. Oder Tomoko Sugita.
Ja.
Rudeus, also als Musikantänzer.
Ah.
Weil, also ich bin gerade am Rewatchen und will ich jede Line, also ich wollte immer die nächste Szene besser hören.
Okay. Ja, ich dran denken müssen. Ich hätte auch Bock, Steinsky Rewatch vielleicht, aber...
Ja, aber ich würde eigentlich eher empfehlen, spiel lieber das Elite-Game,
Ja.
das habe ich. Ne? Das können wir zusammen spielen.
Wir wollten auch Dings Rewatch vielleicht vermitteln. Irgendwann.
Achso, also weil ich hatte mir vorhin ein Video angeschaut zu so Steins geht, so was sie echt verkackt haben im Anime. Und das hatte ich irgendwie vergessen, aber die haben so einen Plotpoint echt hardcore verkackt im Anime.
Im Main Anime?
Ja.
Okay, sag mir nicht.
Ja. Also an sich war es solid so, aber es gibt so einen Main-Plot, der sie echt... Ich weiß nicht, wieso es mir nicht aufgefallen ist, weil ich spiele so. Aber Das ist echt hart
Ja,
verkackt.
sorry, lass weitermachen, weil ich will es finishen, weil ich habe Ultraum.
Ja, nee, das macht's nur geiler.
The sense that she was defective.
Also, sie ist der Main-Charakter. Oh mein Gott, nein, Drop.
You know, we get on pretty well, don't you think? Maybe you could, I don't know, take me as your mistress? She sounded like she was only playing around, but still she responded with, it's not wise to pair two defectives together. What's that supposed to mean? She said with a scowl. Yukimasa's ship was to depart the following day, and that evening the woman asked him to stay the night, to which he was unsure how to react. Don't you have work? I'll just say I wasn't feeling well. It's not like anyone wants me there. But don't you need I can survive taking one day off. I want to be with you. And with that he could come up with no further objections. Objection! Regardless of what he did, he would be heading back out to sea the following day, likely never to see the woman again. So rather than waste time debating her own life choices, it would be easier for everyone if he just let her do as she pleased. Tomorrow none of it would be in his concern after all. He agreed, and she gave him a big smile in response. I'm going to make you a feast tonight, she said. You're paying though. Da würde ich gehen. You're pay. Yukiwasa wondered if perhaps what she wanted most was to play like they were a real family. That was probably it. What she was missing in her life wasn't love or romance, but someone to sit around the table to enjoy a meal with. But that raised a new question. What happened after she had her fun? She found someone to fill her hole in her spirit.
Oder imagine am Ende so Plot-Twist, Doppel. Das ist sie, die mit den ganzen Leuten, die gekillt hat. In den Back-Alleys.
Ah.
Weil sie hat auch so erzählt, dass sie so Quickies da gemacht hat.
Oh,
und
dann rippt sie so auf eine Klaut das Geld und tötet sie.
Nein, sie isst sie.
Oh, was? Oh ja.
Weil sie kein Essen hat für Geld. Geld für Essen hat.
Oh, wenn das ist, dann das wäre krasser Call. Weil, ja, das kannst du.
Schauen.
Und sie will ihn auch töten.
Und essen.
Ja.
Mal schauen. Jugendwäsche bei der Jugend. Jugend. Gefallen der Welt.
Ich hab den abgeschädigt. Want someone to fill on the spirit, but it was fake. And the hole wouldn't stay filled.
Mal schauen, ob das echt Yukimasa essen will.
Oh. I'm doing something terribly cruel to her, aren't I? There was nothing he could do about that anymore, though. Even if she were to ask him to stay, he didn't have the option. May I ask you something? He said.
Yeah.
How did it feel when you lost your family, your sanctuary?
You sure know how to go right for the heart.
I apologize.
I don't want to think about anything that might bring my mood down. If you want to know what it feels like, experience it for yourself. Find yourself a girl and get her to run off on you.
Seemingly taking his silence for discomfort, the woman let out a soft laugh and said,
But I don't want you to have to go through that.
What's a soft laugh? Supper was a seafood stew. Oh, yes. Hardly a feast, but he was a homely. But there was a homely warmth to the
Boah, ich hier voll, Digga. Boah, das ist so bad.
Schön warm. Oh, something she had likely owned over the years. When a man is incomplete, missing a vital part of what makes him human, what becomes of him? Does he lash out? Does he lose the will to live? Does he forget what kind of man he is?
And now we can imagine.
Yukimasa didn't think he fit into any of those categories. In the middle of night. In the middle of the night. Yukimasa silently. Und voll random Gedanke, aber ich habe so eine alte Playlist auf YouTube mit so 2021 Attack on Titan Edits auf YouTube. So.
Ich hab's auch so eine.
Der ist so there's a power in what you do, every watching you. Und dann so, take your und der so, der gleich davor. Ah. Gegen das Deutsche.
Ich habe so Anime-AMV-Playlist gemacht.
Ja.
Mit so Sensei Steinskate, Attack on Titan hauptsächlich.
In the middle of the night, Yukimasa silently slipped out of bed and made his way to the door.
Wait!
He didn't make it 2 steps before the woman grabbed him by the sleeve. She must have been awake the whole time. There was no way she could have noticed him leaving otherwise.
Don't do it to me!
You know how much I sacrificed?
I've had more than enough of waking up to an empty bed. I'm not going to let it happen again. Not this time. I will kill you. You might think sneaking off about the world is the cleanest way to end things, but you're wrong. Stay until morning and let me say a proper goodbye.
No, I wasn't.
You weren't what? Of course you were. I don't care if you think of me as a free tale for the week. You're just going to forget about when it's over. I'm using you for my own personal satisfaction too. But...
What?
Nee, das war vielleicht... Das war ein bisschen gut gerade. But the one thing I won't stand for is you just up and disappearing on me. You're not the one being left behind. So you don't now understand how worthless and pathetic it makes you feel. It hurts so much more than anything else you could do. Don't leave me.
That was probably what she wanted to say more than anything else. The loneliness that had created the hole in her heart was making waves. And this was the real Zay that lay hidden in her words. Übrigens, ich finde jetzt schon nicer als die Episode 1 Short Story.
Ja, aber da war halt nur so Arthur, wie er so alles gesagt hat.
Nur erfahren, was dann
und an sich Arthur juckt nicht so krass.
Nee, gar nicht.
Ja. Und Yukimasa ist ja cool.
She didn't want to be alone anymore. I'm not leaving. I'll be back. The biggest cap I've ever heard in my life. There's something I wanted to give you, and I was just going to get it. Bro.
And what would that be?
It's my way of showing gratitude.
I think the word you're looking for is present.
Yes, that. Her eyes were locked with Yukimasa's.
Locked in.
She was staring through the darkness in an attempt to ascertain how truthful he was being. After 10 or 15 seconds of glaring, she let him go.
Schau bei der jungen Freunde, ich würde sagen, jung.
Stimmt, was geht jetzt noch so 2 Minuten? Okay. I won't be long. He said with a smile. As he walked down the moonlit porch, Yukimasa's mind raced. No one truly understands themselves more than superficially. Some say you know yourself best. Others say it's quite the opposite. The concept of the self is full of such uncertainties, contradictions. Yukimasa suspected he was suppressing himself within himself. Weißt du, woran mich das erinnert?
Ja.
So, es ist wie ein Zahn. Wenn du nicht weiter weißt, weiß einfach vorgestellt.
Also.
Du musst sie nicht selbst schauen. Das ist dein wahres Selbst. Irgendwie so. Das kann nicht sein, dass diese iconic Lines hier nicht quoten kann. While he had a reasonable grasp on who his outer self was, his inner self was a complete mystery. Es gibt auch diesen Spruch, ne? Jeder Mensch hat 3 Selbst. Das eine, was er der Welt zeigt, das andere, was er seinen nächsten Angehörigen zeigt, und das eine, was er nur sich selbst zeigt oder so.
Also, keine Ahnung, ob das zusammenhängt, aber irgend so ein Dude hat aufgestellt, dass es so 3 Ichs gibt.
Ja.
So über Ich,
Okay.
Ich und so irgendwie selbst Ich. Ja.
Woher kennst du das?
Ich habe in der Schule gemacht, war für eine Probe. In Ethik.
Okay, And that fact sometimes sent a chill down his spine. Who was he? What did he want? Which self? Hast du Heizung hochgedreht eigentlich? Hast du Heizung hochgedreht eigentlich? Which self? Which of his selves was the real? Self. Felt sick. About 30 minutes later, he was back. In seconds of him knocking on the woman's door, it was open. She must have been waiting there anxious for his return. Sie hat seine Züge gekämmt. The woman met his eyes, gave him a pouty smile, and then slowly lowered her gaze. Her eyes gradually widened, shooting up and down as they did.
Ja, ein Schwert.
I've never been very good about thinking of anyone other than myself, and consider myself proficient enough at conversation. But if I'm not careful, my mind always seems to drift back to myself instead of focusing on who I'm talking to.
Schwert.
That said, I've had a great deal of time thinking about you. The woman took a step back.
Ja, er hat ein Schwert.
Yukimasa followed, and I've concluded this is the best way for me to make you happy. She didn't even have time to let out a shriek. There was only the sound of steel slicing flesh, metal gripping against bone.
Yeah.
As the nameless katana pierced the woman's breast.
Yeah.
Her mouth flipped open and shut while her eyes were held wide open, affixed on the man standing before her. Faint gasps escaped her lips in sputters. Perhaps she wanted to scream. Perhaps she wanted to cry and shout and say this wasn't what she wanted. But there wasn't enough strength left in her emaciated body to do either. As blood spilled down the sides of her lips, she mustered the last scraps of her strength. With it, she forced out her parting words, carefully chosen and enunciated to ensure he heard every last one.
You pitiful man. What kind of hopeless fool would throw their life away just to kill a worthless prostitute?
She cursed him as her life slipped away. Kimasa, however, let out a laugh and muttered, Don't you worry. I still have enough control to not act sheerly on impulse.
Hey, Yukimasa! You heard about that whore you'd been banging? She was killed last night, cut to pieces like the others. I swear, it's like trouble follows you wherever you go.
Das ist ein Zufall.
Lord Almighty, stay away from me, man. I don't want to catch your attention, whatever evil spirits think are like to you.
Wie hier Kokoro, so, wohin immer du gehst, ne?
Ja,
Das ist ein Wort.
Todesengel. That was probably best. He would be safe by keeping his distance. So, okay.
Ja. Aber ich sag's immer wieder, ne? Kokoro, der Boss der Organisation ist, und es Sinn macht. The biggest plot twist in Anime History.
Ja, aber es so wirklich Sinn macht.
Ja.
Nicht nur so, ja, das und das. Es muss.
Ja, das wäre crazy, also das ist...
Wir haben, das war das, was ich gekauft wurde. Wir haben in der Folge 1000 irgendwas, was letztes Mal, wo wir vorbeigefahren sind, da war Corona nicht an dem Ort, ne? Das waren...
Achso, das wäre krasser als Shanks Böse.
Natürlich.
Weil Shanks Böse war auch so eine Sache wie, boah, das wäre so krass, aber ich denke mir immer so, ja, das wird keinen Sinn machen, weil schau alleine an, was Shanks für Monologe hat, was er so für Dialoge hat, was er für Handlungen hat. Koro? Weiß es nicht.
Nach der Divorce? Das ist ja nicht richtig.
Ja, das muss ja davor sein, von der Timeline her alleine.
Ja.
Der Divorce war dann ein bisschen,
So
in so ein bisschen dunklen unterwegs, ja.
Ich hab's immer auf nächsten Film sein Arc.
Ja.
Aber dauert noch. Also kommt jetzt in 10 Tagen raus oder so auf Japanisch, aber schon immer dran.
I guess jetzt, wo wir mit allen Akteuren und so, können wir vielleicht gucken demnächst.
Ja.
So, demnächst. That was probably best. He would be safer keeping his distance. Yukimasa gazed idly out at the port town as it faded out of view. He then turned towards the ocean. The vast familiar blue expanse. The waves against the boat sounded vaguely like splashing blood. Can I ask you something, Connie? Ikima said in the warm embrace of his sweetheart.
Anything.
It's okay, buddy. What would you think if I were actually an unspeakably evil man?
Where did that come from?
Das erinnert mich an irgendwas, diese Voice Acting Performance. She asked with a smile, evidently assuming the question was in jest. Idle curiosity.
Well, bad people come in all shapes and forms. What sorts of bad things would you do?
How about committing murder? Deceiving people.
Achso, das ist nicht gesagt, ne?
The words that came from Ikima's mouth were not the one he'd prepared to say, which came as a surprise even to him. Why had he not been able to say what he had wanted? What reason could he have possibly had? Did he not want to raise any suspicions? No, that wasn't it.
Is being dishonest really evil?
Davor hat er gesagt Murder, aber jetzt ignoriert sie einfach.
Nein,
Hab ich verpasst?
das hat er im Kopf gedacht. Und deswegen kam auch die Linie nach. Er wollte es sagen, aber kam nicht aus dem Mund.
Ich dachte, er hat beides gesagt. Habe ich missverstanden. Wenn ich es alleine machen würde, dann würden alle in die Kommentare schreien, fucking Idiot, Alter, liest doch gescheit.
Ja, das ist so wie meine kurze Real-Life-Story, Digga. Fucking Gommer, der Bastard vor 12 Jahren oder so bei irgendeinem Let's Play so. Mit so Milchbubi, weiß irgendwie an so einem Leuchtturm-Map, wo die so Level gemacht haben. War ein Typ so in der Ecke am Camp und das ist halt Abfuck, ne? Okay. Und ein Typ läuft hin und also er haut diesen Typen runter und sagt ja, hier ein Camper und der andere, der auch
läuft. Wer haut hier runter? Gomme?
Die Gomme haut diesen Spieler runter, der campt und das ist halt lost, also camp. Und Gomme läuft dahin und haut ihn runter und sagt ja, ein Camper und der andere, der da vorhin gelaufen ist, hat ihn aber auch runtergeschubst. Also, ne? Und dann so, zwei. Und ich sag mir so, Bastard, nein, der andere ist doch hingelaufen, um ihn zu töten, Digga. Und ich weiß doch, ich hab das kommentiert vor 10 Jahren oder so. Eine Minute drin, bist du dumm, Gomme. Man sieht doch ganz klar, wie er da hinläuft und nicht am Camp ist. Geistig viel. Und irgendwie so. Ich absolut dumm, Digga, lost.
Geil.
Mhm. Anyways, von der Real Life Story End. Ich hab schon gesehen. Ja?
Immer noch. Das ist Pauline.
So. Schulzbad. If you lie to cheat someone out of their money or cause them pain, no one's perfectly honest with everyone they meet. I try to be straightforward and truthful as best as I can, but I'm sure I slip from time to time. So listen to me, Yukimasa.
Being of a wide, infinitely loving smile.
Even if you have something to hide, something you're ashamed to tell me that one shows how I feel about you.
You've got nothing to worry about. Besides, I've already made you a promise.
Besides?
I plan to be with you for years and years to come. You want to know what my life's dream is?
I'd love to.
My dream is to live out a long, quiet life with you. I don't need anything extravagant, just an ordinary life, slowly growing older, having 3, maybe 4 children. We'd never fight, and eventually before I knew it, I'd be an old lady thinking, it was an uneventful life, but it was the best I could have asked for. That's the life I want. Oops. And what about you?
Now he understood. He didn't want to risk cracking the foundation she provided him, the sanctuary she formed around him. Yes, I too wish for a peaceful life with you.
Ende Door 2. Wahrscheinlich Door 2. Moment.
Episode 2. Ja, war auf jeden Fall besser als die erste, war nice.
Mhm. Ja, Freunde, das war Defectives, pretty cool, muss ich sagen. Wir gehen jetzt rein in The Painting's Rumblings.
Worauf du am meisten Bock hast.
Rumblings?
Ja. Rumbling.
Ne, Ramblings. Ja, hab ich am meisten Bock. Das ist Georges wieder vor sich hin rumbelt. Und ich würde sagen, was schon, wir gehen direkt rein, oder?
Yes.
So.
Du oder ich?
Boah, machen du, ich habe ultra Halsschmerzen noch.
Okay.
Hätte die Stimme davor vielleicht nicht machen sollen.
Nee.
Egal. Aber direkt so, davor war immer was.
Ja, Episode 3. the paintings ran. Ich sage übrigens Episode 3, weil es hier so wie Star Wars geschrieben ist. Das kann ich sagen. So, boy, hello.
General Kenobi.
Giselle, doing your rounds again? Such a diligent young lady you are. You could get away with cleaning this place once every couple of decades and no one would be any the wiser.
Also das ist hier die zeitlich gesehen zwischen Kaune, also nach Dorf 5, war sie ja gefangen da jahrelang und ich habe in Dorf 6 gesehen. Also
So bevor sie zur Maid wurde.
Ja, sie ist ja am Maid werden, deswegen nennt er sie auch Giselle. Und Every Decades, ne?
Ja. Cool. Achso, what? You're not Giselle? That's someone else?
Nee, sie,
Sie ist jetzt zur Maid geworden, I guess. Oh, no, you're just the maid? And who am I, you ask? Well, this is quite the pickle. What on earth could have happened while I was dozing off? Das ist echt wie Harry Potter, so diese Gemälde in der Wand.
Ja.
You think you're just a maid and you think you're a witch at the same time. You've forgotten just about everything and I don't think anything I say is going to fix that. You do seem a bit mellower now and not so constantly miserable. Wasn't sure what to say to you before, or if I should say anything at all.
Geiler Soundtrack.
So I didn't say much out of consideration for you. Not that you could really tell from looking at me, I guess. If forgetting takes some weight off you, then maybe it's for the best. Not that I think you should forget, and not that I want you to forget about Michel, but I won't blame you for choosing not to spend God knows how long, much longer agonizing over it. Nothing wrong with abandoning ship, especially considering how much you've spent on it. And hey, it hurt me too seeing you in so much pain, so we both come out on top here, I guess. What a kind painting, you say? Well, thank you kindly. But the truth is, I'm not nearly as upstanding a guy as people think I am. And it was us following us that turned your life upside down and caused all that misery and suffering. Yeah, I know. The first dumbfounded smile was testament enough. Everything I say is going in one ear and out the other, which means I'm free to say whatever I want. By the time tomorrow rolls around, you'll have forgotten all about the curious stalking painting you chanced upon today. So I'll start with this. It's a huge relief to see you smiling again. It's not the smile of someone right in the head, I can see that much, but it's a lot easier on the eyes and the heart than how you were before. Like I said, I'm a real winner. I'm not particularly concerned about putting up appearances here. Call me heartless if you will, you wouldn't be wrong. I'm not going to pretend I'm some saint, but at the same time I'm not going to play like I'm cackling villain either. There's one thing...
Immer die Muschel cackling.
Yeah. If there's one thing I don't want people to see, though, it's me looking weak. I'm the laid-back guy without a care in the world. That's who I want people to see when they look at me. My big brother was your standard cookie cutter, you can count on me for anything kind of brother. I mean, that ended up not being the case, but he sure looked the part.
Mr. Powell, it's my brother.
And Michel, he always looked up to thee, went to him for everything, gave him all his stuff. Weißt du noch, das Reaction-Video, wo ich dir so in den Chat so Memes geschickt habe, da war so, how good to finally meet you, die ganzen Memes.
Ja, das ist so geil.
Lustig. Ist es noch available, das Video?
Ist bei Renato.
Ja, okay. He was tall and well-built, muscular. Everything about him screamed, manly man. And I kinda admired that too, though not nearly as much as Michel did. I became a painter in part because I didn't want to follow my brother's footsteps. Not to say I don't like painting, I love it. But people weren't going to be inclined to compare us often. I didn't have to be as fit as him or as good as chess. I had my own thing to be good at, art. I couldn't beat him at his own game, so I beat him at mine. And my whole not a care in the world deal was probably at least on some level, a shield against having to admit I couldn't compare. If we were a few years further apart, maybe I could have just had the same admiration and respect for him as Michel. But there's not much getting past that boyish prettiness when you're so close in age. I know I've been rambling at you for a while, already, but would you mind sticking around a little longer? Great. Warte nicht auf die Antwort. I've got an old story I'd like to get off my chest.
Cool.
Bollinger storyline. This is something I was planning to take to the grave, and something I don't think Giselle ever needs to know. But well, you say you're not Giselle anymore, and I'm already in the grave, so what the hell? I'm just gonna talk to myself for a bit here, and if you'd kindly forget anything you may overhear, that'd be lovely.
Jo, Musik.
Back before I became a painting, I was the head of the Bollinger
Oh
family.
nein, sag mir bitte nicht, er erzählt irgendwas von einem Digga.
Though I spent most of my time painting. It really wasn't the job for me though, a guy who half-assed his way straight through life. So I left all the businessy stuff to my wife, Amy.
Goodness
Now,
gracious.
she was a really capable girl.
Bro,
If she'd been born a guy, she would have made one heck of a diplomat.
ja, natürlich sie.
Possibly even caught the king's eye. Before we were married, she had a bit of a fling with Dee, which she felt really bad about that. Ja, das habe ich auch vergessen hier. Sie hat auch hier rumgehort, hallo? Das ist ja noch das wenigst Schlimme, was sie getan hat. Probably didn't help that I had a tendency to bring it up from time to time. Not all the time, just occasionally.
Digga, warum?
Warum ist sie auch mit ihr zusammengegangen danach?
Ja, oh mein Gott,
Er
Digga.
hätte direkt feiern müssen, aber was soll's. Direkt verbannen vom Estate.
Oder wirklich. Es gibt, so, wenn man so Top 10 Most Hated so anklickt, warte, nutzt sie rein.
Ja, allein was sie mich angetan hat, hallo?
Ja.
But that aside, she was a faithful, hardworking partner.
Ja, weil der halt davon selber profitiert, Digga.
It didn't take long for us to become known as the dope and his able bride, to which Amy would always interject.
Oh, Digga. George is a very capable man. Thank you very much. Danke für Digga.
No, that probably makes it sound like I just shoved all the work of running the house onto her, but in truth, she wanted the job. She quite enjoyed it, and who was I to complain?
Ja, natürlich will sie den Job wieder mehr Einfluss hat, Digga. Also, kann man dumm sein, Digga.
Ich weiß so sehr. Wenn du Charakter hatest, dann hatest du richtig drauf. So. Okay. It also meant I didn't have to deal with.
Ja, aber auch vor allem, wenn dieser Charakter nicht irgendwie sich
Ja.
verändert.
Ja,
Das
klar.
ist immer so mit ihm.
Ja.
Wie war es nochmal bei dem bei Rebels? Da war ich am Anfang Hater, aber er war dann später pretty cool.
Du meinst,
Wieder lila, ne? Die Stimme von Vegeta hat. Anyways, ja. Der hat sich dann so cool, guter,
Ja,
dann war ich nicht mehr so ein Helden. Aber sie, Digga, boah. So. Ich muss nochmal Bro. Schreibt mal in die Kommentare, Freunde, wer euer Hasscharakter bis aus Fata Morgana. Es gibt viele Picks. Aimee, dieser Antonio, der Vater, Antonin, Amide, Digga, die drei.
Sepp.
Sepp, ja, stimmt. Jetzt, das Ding ist halt bei Maria, die war halt in der 3 so abfuck, aber in der 8 war die echt
Nee,
schlimm.
es gibt keine Competition Anime oder I did have to deal with one of the family's most significant dilemmas, namely my mother. Not to be crass, but mom was not quite all there. She'd always been a bit of a nervous wreck, but it didn't take much to set her off. And it didn't, take much to set her off, but it was what happened with Michel that finally broke her. Mom had, I guess you could say, a very particular image of what she wanted Michel to be, and he ended up not fitting that image. Now you're probably thinking, that doesn't seem like such a big deal, but it is. I just can't tell you why. Michel has to be the one to tell you. Anyway, some bad stuff went down, and at the end of it all, Mom was constantly hovering over the edge.
Ach so, obviously, kann er nicht hier so erzählen.
Ja.
Das, ich hab nicht vergessen.
Deswegen auch ist es sowas hier, was wir auch nicht hätten sehen können, als es passiert ist.
Ja.
Dad gave up on her entirely, and I just wasn't sure how to approach it, so I kept my distance. Kann sein, dass ich falsch liege, aber also Dad ist ja auch einer der Hasscharaktere, ne?
Ja,
aber ich glaube, er hat gar keine Line im Game, weil Mom hat ein paar Lines.
Doch.
Hat er?
Ja, mit halt Giselle.
Okay.
Als man es so gesehen hast, aber nicht viele.
Okay. Ja, doch. Aimee was the only one in the family who would actively engage with Mom. So while she had betrayed me once, I had come to trust Aimee again. If you betray me once and then I trust again, We had a couple kids, I turned into a doting father and life was swell. Hat die Kinder tun mir auch leid hier. All my problems swept under the rug. Mom's condition. Michel. I left it all to Aimee and enjoy the pleasant carefree life. But then Giselle, or I guess you're just the maid now, not long after Michel died.
Ja.
Not long after Michel died. My oh my. Ahaha. You really aren't Giselle anymore, huh? So back to my rambling. Michel died, and I got furious at Dee over it. But I keep coming back to that. Who really deserved the brunt of the blame in that situation? It's nice and comfy to sit back and do nothing. You can throw blame around all you want. It wasn't your fault after all. You're not the one who killed him, you know? It wasn't long afterwards that Dee died too. Killed on the battlefield. I was told he died a very noble death, but I couldn't help but think he was in a hurry to escape. Kann es sein, dass es das auch da stand bei den Credits, dass Didier Age of Death und so?
Ja, wir können nochmal im Let's Play nachgucken.
Weil wir haben auch so uns gefragt, so glaube ich, so wie ist er gestorben?
Ja, ich glaube, er ist pretty young gestorben.
Listening to the news, I kept telling myself I shouldn't have snapped at him like that. I shouldn't have blamed him. He had to choose between protecting Mom or protecting our brother, and he settled on Mom. He was too hard-headed to come up with a way to protect them both. So even if he had, it was too risky. He served the church directly, and we were all under its thumb. If word spread that one of our own had supposedly sold his soul to the devil, that would be the end of the Bollinger family. I wouldn't have escaped unscattered either. Losing both of my brothers in quick succession crushed me.
Und dann hat Aimee es ausgenutzt.
And as I started breaking down, it was, you guessed it, Aimee who comforted me.
It's terrible what happened, but it's not your fault.
That was around when I began sensing something was off.
Ach, dann hat er gemerkt.
I mean, she had a thing with me. You'd expect she would have been bawling her eyes out right alongside me. So why on earth was she so calm? But I didn't press her on it. I knew I wouldn't get an answer even if I did. Oh, was ist, wenn wir hier in der Access-Story erfahren, dass sie doch nicht in Luxury gelebt hat, sondern einen miesrahmen...
Ja, also sie hatte Luxury bis dahin gelebt, aber dann hat
oh mein Gott. Oh, ja, das könnte echt so sein.
Weil er dir was merkt. Komm. Aber es war ja auch so bei Backstage, weil es wurde gesagt, dass George der dümmste Charakter ist.
Ja. I knew I couldn't get an answer even if I did. Also, I didn't have much of a right to question Aimee. Well, I was pushing all my promise onto her. Doubly so, knowing that opening my dumb mouth was what had done this to Dee in the first place. And before long, we went back to our normal routine.
Oh,
About 8 years after Michel's death, Mom was gone too, and the Bollinger family was down to me, Aimee, and our 2 sons. I had started teaching the boys how to paint, and I loved every minute of it. And then one day I started feeling unwell.
No way. Sag mir nicht, er wird jetzt hier sterben und Aimee hat dann einfach Oberhaupt geworden. Das wird... No way.
My fingers would get kind of tingly, such that holding a brush for long periods of time would hurt. So gradually my time spent both teaching and painting dwindled, and even leaving the manor became difficult. At first I just thought it was a little strange, nothing to be worried
Ja,
about.
hat ihn so gepoisoned oder so ein Shit.
But then it started getting real bad, and I'd be stuck in bed for days at a time. We called the doctor to look at me, but he couldn't find anything wrong.
Echt, erzählt er mir so.
Aimee said I must be overworking myself, and she made me these nice hearty meals, hoping to bring back my energy.
Diese Hearty Meals sind
Was
100% vergiftet.
Was will sie aber erreichen? Was will sie erreichen?
Ja, dass sie das Oberhaupt
Dass
wird.
die
Weil wenn er
das Oberhaupt
stirbt,
wird.
ist er recht.
Ja.
Die Söhne sind noch jung.
But my condition only got worse. Eventually I started losing my appetite, but I immediately insisted I eat anyway, or I would never get better.
Digga.
So you know what I did? I tossed out the meat she made when she wasn't looking. Oh, und da wird er
Jo.
vielleicht besser dadurch. I sent my younger boy out to the town to buy me food in secret. But for a while I ate that instead of Amy's meals, making sure it looked like nothing had changed. Now let's go. George is a smart move.
Ja.
And after a week or two, tingling in my fingers started going away. I could only laugh.
Crazy.
Laugh and laugh. And grit my teeth. Then cry my eyes out.
Ja, bitte sind sie getötet.
I made it alive with this woman. Trusted her, and she goes and does this. Anger and sorrow were drowned out by raw heartbreak. My firstborn, he was getting to be the age he could take over, which is why I had used my younger son to run errands for me. Bro, da hätte sie auch die Sons getötet, oder wie hin?
Maybe.
Oder wäre sie einfach Oberhaupt gewesen, bis er auf Age wäre oder so.
Ja.
I couldn't be sure the two weren't working together, genau. I was at a total loss. But what are you supposed to do when your wife's trying to poison you to a slow death? Even though I'm not sure what the right course of action in that situation would have been, yeah.
Köpfe sie. Und den torture sie.
Yeah.
Dann reißt die Fingernägel ab.
Maybe I could have banished her,
Ja.
had
Ja,
her
steht
punished. But remember, I was only had in name.
Na.
Dazu so, jetzt kommt jetzt, maybe I could have banished her, but I
Ja,
tortured her.
Ja, irgendwie so.
She handled everything, and there was no way I would have been able to pick up the pieces after throwing her out.
Ja, come on, man.
With the confidence, okay. And if my suspicions were right, and my older boy was in on it too, getting rid of Aimee wouldn't have solved anything. What then? Spend the rest of my days living in fear of my own family? I was, by that point, worn pretty thin, both physically and emotionally. Even though every thought led me to the worst possible outcome, I couldn't for the life of me come up with a workable solution. Eventually, I got it into my head that it was a punishment, that I deserved it. Bro, obviously what Aimee was doing wasn't right, but my hands weren't exactly clean either.
Ja, obviously, aber sie hat auch noch. Das weiß er obviously nicht, ne? Aber sie hat mich getortured, Digga.
Maybe mom would have recovered if I had looked after her. Maybe Dee would still be alive if I had put myself in his shoes instead of just snapping at him. Maybe if I had given everyone the care and attention they deserved, Billy wouldn't have had to die. Burying your head in the sands doesn't absolve you of responsibility. When I finally realized how great a sin in action was, it was far too late. I'm dumb, short-sighted, and I hated myself for not figuring that out sooner. Should have been stupidly obvious that my action and inaction were doing to people around me. I should have seen all of this coming. Yeah, Aimee had betrayed me, but she wasn't the only one guilty of that. When I was going through stuff after his death, I came across a painting that had been torn to shreds, that I had made. By refusing to use my head, I had done something that destined his identity. By refusing to use my head, I had done something that denied his identity. He left this world still carrying the pain I had caused him. By the time I had come to that conclusion, I wondered why I was even alive at all. I couldn't blame anyone for wanting me dead. So I started eating Aimee's meals again, knowing good and well it would likely kill me. I didn't stop sending my younger boy out though. Just not for food. I also strongly encouraged him to move out and become Ich habe kurz Court Artist gelesen. Digga, nein, Con Artist.
Granate.
Yeah, so good. Man. Then I started painting again. It was going to be my final piece. Every day, the tingling in my hands spread a little farther. My breathing grew a little more labored. I was afraid I might not finish it. I might not finish while I was still able to get out of bed, but I somehow managed.
Sehen wir das Painting?
It was the most harrowing experience I'd had painting something in my entire life.
Ist das Painting, wo er ist? Probably.
Drew her to her facade. I stayed at myself until my last breath. She held my hand tight, giving me a stained smile. Oh bitte, nimm so einen Dolch und dann... Oh, Amy, komm etwas näher.
Komm mit mir. Aber nein, Mann. Yeah.
She held my hand again. It didn't occur to me at the time, but Amy always seemed to be smiling, no matter what. In a way, it's kind of impressive how she managed to keep up the loving wife act while simultaneously loading him up with poison. Yeah. Impressive.
Oh, Digga.
Tell me, Amy, how deep did your poison flow? When you were looking after Mom, did you talk about Mission? Knowing you probably figured out she was still alive. And I bet you read his final letter to her. It was you who pushed her to set everything into motion, wasn't it?
Ja, damit Michi gekillt wird.
There were so many things I wanted to say, but I stayed my tongue and made these my parting words.
Also, ganz kurz, bevor wir jetzt diese Party mal hören. Digga, guck mal. Der Willen, also Willen ist wirklich sie hat alles eingeleitet,
Ja.
Digga. Durch sie ist Michi so, wow, wie er war. Durch
Ja.
sie ist Michi gestorben, durch sie ist alles gewesen. Durch sie hat dann Morgana resurrected.
Ja, sie ist the true villain, also sie ist... Parting words. I loved you so much, Amy. Nah. So I ask you this, keep my last painting a memory of me. I have no idea if she actually did as I required, but the last thing I saw before I passed away was her nodding, a smile on her lips. The paint I used to make it, I mixed with a special something I had my younger boy go out and buy for me. A substance that, according to what I was told, slowly dissolves into the air,
Oh mein Gott.
making it toxic. Oh mein Gott!
Warte. Also, es kann sein, dass sie gekillt wurde durch.
Ja, bitte! George is
Aber wir wissen nicht, ob es irgendwie war, ne?
And it has some sort of reaction with the paint as well, turning it almost black. I'm quite proud of how it turned out, if I do say so myself. It was a gorgeous landscape painting.
Ja, ne?
Sorry for rambling at you for so long. That's the end of my story.
Also, probably
Were
ist
you
die
listening to me? Yeah. What? You have to go clean the fireplace? Well, alright. Don't let me keep you. Just please make sure you forget everything by tomorrow, alright? I'm counting on you. I know. Why even say anything, right?
Könnte sein, dass sie jetzt zum Fireplace geht und wir dann erwachen. Es ist direkt vor der ersten Szene. Und das hat Fede vergessen.
Cool. I wanted to test someone. I just don't want anyone to actually know about it. The human heart's a big ball of contradictions like that, you know? You don't? You don't what? You don't want to test someone?
Ja, nee, you don't, das ist halt, was sie sagt. Die Maid.
Nee, achso, you know? No, you don't. You don't know.
Ja, aber sie sehen halt nicht, was sie
Oh, okay. Well, see, ich habe nicht gecheckt, was sie geantwortet hat. It'll be another few decades before you come by again, I imagine. And when you do, will it be our first time meeting again? Ich glaube aber, das ist nicht vor der First...
Das könnte sein.
Nee. Ich denke, es spielt einfach so in der Pattern-Zeit.
Ja, schon klar.
Vor allem, er sieht sie ja zum ersten Mal als Mädchen. And when you do, will it be your first time meeting again? Will you even be able to hear my voice anymore by then? Maybe it would be best if I forgot everything too. Who knows? So long, mate. And take care. when an angel comes to judge, how will his scales tilt? Towards forgiveness or towards reckoning? But you know, I don't want it to be an angel who makes the decision. No. You don't have to be an angel. You don't have to be an angel at all. Nice.
Also, ich
Geil.
würde obviously sagen, Paintings, Ramblings, Defectives, The Slow Killing Poison.
Ja. Weil alleine, dass wir erfahren haben, dass...
Ein
das,
Nie.
ja.
Also, nicht 100%, aber
Doch.
in meinem Headcanon auf jeden Fall.
Nee, das ist nix Headcanon. Das wurde so... Er hat gesagt, dass
Ja.
sie es behalten soll. Und es ist ein
Ja,
Poison.
sie hat zwar gesagt, ja, aber kann auch sein, dass sie es halt wegmacht.
Es hat, also 100% sie ist schon so.
Auf jeden Fall, Freunde,
Ja.
ich hoffe, Amy hat einen grässlichen...
So geil. George ist guter Move. Also er hat zwar
Hardcore
die
verkackt.
Künstler vertraut und bla bla und so weiter, aber...
Ja, Freunde. Das war's von
Geil,
Subset
weil das haben
in
wir...
einem
Das haben
Video.
wir
1,5 Stunden ungefähr.
ja, das haben wir... Oder hast du auch gesagt, so, oh, das kann nicht sein, wie ist sie damit davon gekommen, so Anime, weil... alle anderen Charakter und so haben schon so ein fitting End gefunden auch. So
Ja,
die
aber
irgendwie-
es ergibt eigentlich keinen Sinn, oder vielleicht wollte sie ihre Fassade aufrechterhalten, um Michael noch mehr zu schmerzen, dass bei der Backstage sie dann so sagt, ja, ich habe ein luxuriöses Leben gehabt, ne?
Aber es ist auch so der, wie nennt man das? Wohl?
Ich glaube, es könnte auch sein, dass sie es nicht ihm erzählen wollte, dass sie so gestorben ist, weil sie dann mit Michael mehr torturen würde. Und uns auch.
Stimmt.
Das könnte man so sagen, aber vielleicht ist es ja auch später entstanden und deswegen haben die
Ja.
davor nicht dran gedacht.
Ja.
Das kann man auch sagen. Also, anyways, Freunde.
Geil. Hab ich
Nächstes-
nicht gar nicht mitgerechnet.
Ich auch nicht, richtig geil. Also ich dachte halt einfach, er erzählt irgendeine Story so von die und ihm oder so, richtig geil. Und nächstes Mal gehen wir dann hier hin, Part 1 Revolt. Müssen wir nochmal abchecken, was da genau war, Freunde. Ich mache den kleinen Recap, so wie immer ihr kennt's.
Ja.
Und, also insgesamt war das beste Ascento Dele bisher, aber es gibt ja noch eins, ne? Ist mir gerade eben erst aufgefallen.
Stimmt, wir machen nächstes Mal Happily Ever After.
Ich dachte gerade irgendwie, wir sind durch mit Obscurity Lost.
Ja, und
Freunde.
danach starten wir die Main Story von der Requiem for Innocence.
Ja, I guess Happily Ever After mache ich als ein kleines eigenes Video.
Ja.
Ja, anyways, Freunde, weiß noch, das Fata Morgana gehört so mäßig. Also, ne, ihr wisst, wie ich meine. Check
Ja.
it. Anyways, Freunde, wir schauen, Freunde, und lasst mal ein Abo da und
Reingehauen.
ciao.